So how do you reset your relationship after you have gotten off track and you've lost your sense of connection? I've spent over the last 3 decades learning from the most effective self-improvement and relationship experts from around the world. And now I'm looking to make a bigger difference by sharing the secrets I have learned and the techniques I have created. The real question is, are you truly ready to become a better you? A person whose love is unconditional, whose attitude is always positive, and whose strength can go unmatched. This podcast is here to give you the answers. Join me and follow along as I share relationship strategies to grow you to the next level and beyond. My name is Mark Webb, and welcome to the Relationship Specialist Network. So once a couple becomes battle weary and they're exhausting each other by calling each other on every infraction, like I said, maybe not out loud, but in their head, they've got to create some breathing room. And one of the things that I came up with many years ago when my wife and I had gotten away from our baseline is I was reminded of a business concept called the 80-20 rule. And I always liked that term, and I took the term and I twisted it to fit marriage. So my definition is very different than the business concept, but I used it to help reset my marriage. And I like to teach it to couples who drifted away from their baseline, because this can show you how to go 1 to 2 to 3 weeks without a single argument, without a single derailment. So pay attention to this. As long as your partner is doing right 80% of the time, let 20% slide. Now that obviously does not include screwing around or messing with the opposite sex or any of that kind of nonsense. But just everyday stuff, as long as they're doing right 80% of the time, you let 20% slide. So let's suppose you and your partner are having a good week, good weekend, good hour. Some couples I work with, to start with, they're happy just to have a good hour. And one or both of you says or does something that's messed up. As soon as that happens, all of your hurt, all your aggravation, all your frustration from when you first laid eyes on each other, whenever it was, say 10 years ago, all of it comes back. And you know what I'm saying is true is all of it. We have this total grievance recall. And I show couples how to fix this. I tell them, I say, 10 years from now, if one or the other of you says or does something that's messed up, it could be 20 years worth of hurt, aggravation, frustration. And nobody ever tells us this, but in order to be successful in a relationship, you've got to have certain mental and emotional muscles. And if you don't have them, you won't make it. And I have developed these muscles. My wife and I, we have a better than great marriage. And that's why I'm committed to teaching you all this stuff. So y'all can enjoy that as well. So kind of coming back on this, say you are having a good week, good weekend, good hour. And one or the other of you says or does something that's messed up by your standards. As soon as that occurs, the feelings will hit you, and they will. And I can't make the feelings not hit you. It's going to happen. But it's what you do the second after they hit you. That's what's important. So as soon as they hit you, what you do is you switch into your brain and you're going 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. Now I don't want you walking around out loud your house going 80-20, 80-20. I don't want you scaring your children or your dog or your neighbors for that matter. You may have to say it 100 times. But what we're trying to do is let this moment pass. And I promise you, if you do, your partner will feel it. They're going to be like, ordinarily they would have said something or they would have done something, but they didn't. He's trying harder, she's trying harder, I need to try harder. And that's how you create the breathing room. But if you know you're going to be called out on every little infraction, trying doesn't even make any sense. So if you can tell your partner's upset from here on out, and they're not saying anything, from here on out, I want you to assume they're doing the 80-20 rule, which in reality, they may not even be doing it. And just let it go. And then we normally say assume is a bad thing, but in this case, it's okay. Just assume that, they're just doing this rule. But if out of habit of, say, maybe 10 years, you can tell your partner's upset and they're not saying anything, and you mess up and you say, what's wrong? And they say nothing, but it's something. Let it go. I don't want you talking until you get closer to the baseline. And like I said before, I know that's counterintuitive, but I don't want you to talk. As a therapist, I used to know my wife was upset before she did. And because I care, I would say, baby, what's wrong? And she would say nothing. And I said, come on, I can tell something's bothering you. What is it? And she would say nothing. I said, come on, what is it? And I'd keep on and on and on and on. And eventually she would blow up. And then I'd go, fine, forget it. I'm sorry I even asked. And then my little sensitive ass would get my underwear in a knot and I would go pout. And what broke me of that habit was, a long time ago I was working with this couple who had been married 25 years. The husband was very opinionated and had something to say about everything, and the wife had it. So their goal for therapy was I was to teach this guy to keep his mouth shut, which I didn't think I was going to be able to help him because the guy was pretty intense. In about our third session, the husband leaned forward as if he was about to say something, and then he leaned back. And I thought kind of natural on the wife's part. She said, "What?" And he went, "Nothing." She goes, "Come on, no, it was something. What was it?" And he went, "Nothing." She goes, "Come on." And, and I said, wait a minute to her. And I said, "Why didn't you just say something to the man?" And he said, "Well, I thought better." And I thought, wow, we're getting somewhere. But then the wife quickly chimed in. She goes, "Yeah, but aren't we supposed to be honest in here?" And my answer kind of shocked all three of us because I went, "No." And y'all don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. I'm not talking about keeping secrets. But I said, "No." And they just kind of looked at me and I thought, that does sound kind of weird because, in therapy we think about being honest. But when you're way down from your baseline, you're thinking all kind of things that don't need to be said. And so I'm going to talk about that more in the next episode, what you're supposed to do with those feelings. But for now, I need you to be mindful of this 80-20 rule. It is a great tool. This is one of the most effective tools I'm probably ever going to teach you. So I want you to make sure that you master this technique, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, that we're going to allow some things to slide because nobody is 100%. You're not, I'm not. And so let's be reasonable and let these things slide. So stay tuned for the next episode because I'm going to talk about what to do with your feelings.